Welcome to the inaugural podcast of Everything Under the Sun and Then Some. I'm your host, MayaDevi, and today I just wanted to talk a little bit about, let's see, race in relationships. Because while we're in the Jonathan Majors situation, I hear a whole lot of black women saying, oh, black women, we're going to stay out of this and slip water about our business. Listen, don't be pissy just because he had a white girlfriend or whatever. Um, I also hear a bunch of people saying, leave white women alone. I don't hear them saying, leave Asian women alone, leave Latin women alone. And I feel a lot of that has to do with the relationship between whites and blacks in America. We know the story, I don't need to rehash it. But let me explain something to you that nobody's saying. Liars, abusers, and manipulators come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. They are not exclusively to the white race. I understand. I know the history because I'm black myself, by the way. I understand what happens when you have these people who create a system of racism within a country and then exploit the ones that don't fit into the category using other minorities against one solid minority that they just really can't stand. I understand it. But that has nothing to do with this. The thing is, she was a manipulator and a liar. You could see on the video that there was no bruise on her. She was an aggressor toward him, but everybody thought, oh, she's white. So it's his fault because he messed with a white woman. And it's also his fault for not dating a black woman. Stop. Black or white, he could have found himself in the same situation. The only difference is, 9 times out of 10, had she been black, he would have not been in this much trouble. Like, there wouldn't be court and all that. She would have been disbelieved, made to be a liar, made out to be all sorts of everything else because she's black. I understand both sides of it. I really do. But let me bring in a perspective that many people don't have. I am a widow, and I was married to a white man for 6 years, together for 18. And let me tell you, we faced a whole lot of challenges. Some from white people, some from black people. It depends on which one of us you saw first, basically. Um, and my main thing on that was, it wasn't about his race. Although we knew that we both came from different races, we've had numerous discussions before we got married about how we are perceived in public. We also talked about a variety of different things that we believed you would encounter. And a lot of it we did. Um, for me, the majority of things tended to be that people were happy. I mean, when it came to my family didn't care. Well, the majority of them didn't care. I had one relative who threatened to come to my wedding and shut it down if I ever married a white man. She threatened this when I was 9 years old. I was 9 when she threatened that. So, I get engaged. We're talking, the people are trying to invite themselves to a wedding that hasn't even been fully planned yet. And so I'm getting sick and tired of all this and that. Strap pops into my head from 1989. And I say, honey, why don't we just elope? And he says, I've been thinking that this whole time, so we just elope. Removing her chance to say anything, but I said, if we did have a wedding, I would remove that part where the minister says, if anyone knows of any objections, because that needs not to be said at this day and age. Because from what I've been told, the reason for that was for any legal objections to be made. Like if this person was a marriage scammer, or if they were already married, had been divorced, it was meant to handle legal and possibly religious issues. And now it's just, I don't like it. You should marry my son. I don't like him. You will meet him. All this other stuff. And so, if the couple is really together and have come together, they should just remove that because it really has nothing to do with what it used to. So we eloped. And in our elopement, in our marriage, we moved to Torresdale, which neither him nor I had ever lived before in my life. So we moved up there, and it's a predominantly white area. But because of my schedule versus my husband, and you would usually see him or me. You wouldn't normally see us together. So a lot of people did not know that we were married. They knew we lived in the building. They did not know we were married. And my husband comes in one day after we were get all excited. Oh, hon, I just met another veteran. And because my husband was in the Navy. And oh, hon, I just met another veteran. He was in the Korean War, blah, blah. And I said, oh, great. Why don't you invite him up sometime? So we started making arrangements because he was going to invite him up a couple days later. And so, literally a couple days later, he comes back upstairs. And it's like, you won't believe what just happened. So apparently the veteran that he liked and was talking to somebody in our office, the main office of the apartment building. And they were making racist jokes about black people. And my husband became extremely offended and said, listen, I'm married to a black woman. You know, you need to cut it out. And I don't know, one of them knew he was, because the guy in the office knew us. We had numerous conversations, even before moving in. But the veteran who did not know must have saw the fire in my husband's eyes, because my husband was also petty. And like me, he was that good kind of petty. So I was walking him out of the building one day as he was going to the VA hospital. So we come downstairs, we go outside because, you know, it's a nice day. And I'm also disabled, by the way. I have cerebral palsy with chronic pain. Wonderful mix of pain and agony. So what happens is we're out there and that same Korean War vet walks past us. And we're just having a bit of sport, you know, just flirting with each other. And so he says, and this is my wife. And I, with the biggest smile I could muster, said, hi. Oh, bubbly and cheery. Like, I know what you do. I know who you are. But I'm just going to pretend like you never said anything. Because I watched that man's face hit the floor. And then his girlfriend trailing behind him. Also, a problem I had with the girlfriend behind him, with her hands full of bags of groceries and such. And this man walks ahead of her with none in his. But I was looking at her like, does she need help? Does she need to be rescued? Blinked twice if you need help. And by the way, she was just as white as he was. But I kind of got the sense that he didn't like people in general, especially not women, by the looks of her and him. But our dynamic was such that I just gotta say this. Be it as it may that there are different races, let me tell you. It is not uncommon for a member of another race to be treated like they are a black person. I remember years ago, maybe like 4 or 5, there was this video surfacing of a guy being arrested by police, and the guy was screaming, "You're treating me like a black person." Actually yelling this in public while the cops are arresting him. And by the way, his arrest was actually very nice. And still being yelled, "Oh, you treat me like a black person." I thought that was funny. I really did. I found that hilarious. Because, sir, you are not bleeding. You have not been certain. You've just been arrested. I will start treating you like a black person. Because, see, I understand racism, and I'm not denying that it exists. But there are some white people who have been treated like black people, or worse, actually. One of them I'll bring up is Dog the Bounty Hunter. When you listen to that man's life story, yeah, I pretty much say he was treated like a black person. He was. And so was my late husband. My late husband grew up in the hood with just his mom and his siblings because his dad died early and his mom had to work and you had to make do with whatever you were given. Not only that, but because of my husband's family, his father's last name still carried weight even years after his death. My husband would get stopped by the cops while in a car full of other teens, other white males, the car that had him in it would get stopped. He'd be taken out the car, separate from his friends, and then one cop would question him while another cop would go question the friends in the car. And ask his friends in the car why they were with him at this time of night. So that's what I mean by him being treated like a black person. My husband, and I know some of you think, oh, that's not all white people. It doesn't have to be. We each have our own experiences in life. We each are our own individual people. But I feel like a lot of that, when it comes from black women, about, oh, you're with that white woman, whatever she does to you, we just gonna stay out of it. Like the person isn't human. Now, I know it's hard to take race out of issues, and frankly we shouldn't, because if we take race out, we eliminate some of what makes us human. But I would like for some of those women who suddenly are like, oh yeah, because blah, blah, blah. I want you to remember that the next time you get into an altercation with a black man, he haul off and do whatever to you, and other people are like, see, you know how black men are. You knew what you were getting yourself into. Why should we stick up for you? You see how stupid that sounds? For you to eliminate the voice you had on an issue simply because you do not like the other person was with. And the only reason you do not like them is because of their race. Newsflash, makes you racist. I have a friend and we've been talking and she's black too. She goes, I'm black, I can't be racist. And I go, yeah, you can. Because you have a race that you identify as, you can't be racist toward races that don't match up with yours. And I hear it in a lot of black women that they just get somehow pissed off when a black man goes with a white woman. They just are indignant by it. And I know that a lot of shallow black men, and I mean shallow black men, actually get into this thing where, they use white wives as a status symbol. I remember a joke on Key and Peele one time, before the show started, and they both had white dogs, and we're talking, and all of a sudden, I believe Jordan says to Keegan, but you married a white woman, and he goes, yeah, I won. See, that kind of thing, although a joke, is heavily prevalent, in the black community. That if a black man can get a white woman, he somehow elevated the status. Well, if a black woman gets with a white man, some people say we have a master complex, or that our partners will lord it over us as in a master-slave relationship. And I remember even a couple years back where, especially not all non-melanated, but a lot of non-melanated women were showing off their boyfriends in that boyfriend hall thing. They kind of look like a slave auction, because this is my boyfriend, and they make them turn, blah, blah. It was like a slave auction, really. That was despicable. But you see how that doesn't make sense? Anywhere around it, black women can be racist. Black people can be racist. And I'm getting pretty sick and tired of black people saying, well, that's racism, and not being called out for their racism. Because racism is universal. It does not solely rest with white people or the allies of white people. I'm an ally to humanity. And the reason I'm an ally to humanity is because, let me break some down for y'all. I am a black, female, disabled, messianic Jew. But I'm not just black. See, I'm black presenting, and I'll put it like that. When you see me, you don't see the other parts of me. I'm black presenting. But I'm also Irish and Cherokee. But you don't see that in me. So because you don't see that in me, you will never address that in me. You will address what you see, which is the blackness in me. Now, for me, that seems a little hypocritical, because although I'm black presenting, I've also been told that I don't talk black. I first came across that when I was in high school. There was a girl lighter than me. And by lighter than me, I want to say that she could pass in certain circumstances, telling me I talk like a white woman